This is the unboxing and review for the Messer Type-F01. I'll be unboxing the Messer Type-F01 model kit for this video. This is part of the HG Universal Century line, and this mobile suit is featured in the Hathaway side story. And as you can see, which is typical, this has some artwork on here that shows the mobile suit in action. It shows, looks like it's a couple of them, and here's one on a platform moving around. This is a bit larger than your typical HG mobile suit. Certainly not the largest, but it's a little bit bulkier, so it's in a bit of a larger box. And the pieces, the armor pieces and stuff like that will be a bit bigger. This is a number 233 of the HG Universal Century model kit line. Got the same picture here, and then here we've got some poses of the finished model and showing some of the accessories that come with it and some action poses and stuff like that. And then there would also be, okay, I guess there's not much on the other side for this one. This one seems to have also some English translations, at least on the box. So you can, normally the translations, not only do they give you, the instructions on how to put it together, but they'll give some backstory on what the mobile suit is and how it's used and its development and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and take a look inside. As you can see, initially there's a lot more runners for this than would be for a typical HG. So we've got the manual. The thing is the manual's not that much bigger because you still only have the various areas and number of pieces. It's just that the number of pieces are much bigger, therefore requiring more runners to be used when putting it together. Taking a look at the runners here, it looks like everything is polystyrene plastic. There doesn't look to be any ABS. And it looks like there's no polycaps on this, so everything's going to be plastic on plastic joints. So that should be good. It should keep everything nice and tight and easy to manipulate, to pose with and stuff like that. So the fact that there is no ABS, then you can panel line and paint and not have to worry about damaging any plastic with anything that you use. And this being a newer model, it has your typical sections like for body and head and right and left arm and etc., as opposed to the older ones that just kind of flow together and don't really distinguish the areas as separately as they do nowadays. And here on the back, we've got a couple poses and the all-important color guide if you intend to do any painting or anything like that. So looks like the colors are mostly going to be kind of this almost brownish red with some tan and some dark brown, almost dark gray color, but it seems to have more of a brownish tint to it than you would normally have on a dark gray, and some yellow. And this is your A runner, and it looks like this has some head pieces, some chest pieces, some hip pieces, so it's a mix of items. And these right here would probably be mostly used in the chest. It looks like the feet and the legs are mostly going to be this kind of brownish red color, which is actually quite a nice color. And as you can see, the armor pieces are just huge on this because it's going to be very bulky. So that's the reason why we have so many. We've got your B2, 3, and B1, and this seems to be just covering probably the feet and the legs for the most part. Then we have our, let's see, C1 and C2. This looks like it's definitely part of the shield and probably arms and other parts. But once again, you can see these are just huge pieces of armor. We have this runner here. This is our D1 and D2. I'm sorry, D3 and... oh, that is D2. So we've got 3 different D1s, and it looks like this is mostly going to be weapons and frame pieces. I don't think this one's going to show a whole lot of the frame. I think it's mostly the armor clicking into pieces of the armor. And it does have beam effect here, which is just for the light swords. This being a HG kit, it does have some color correcting stickers, and most likely what I'll be doing is I will be painting these instead because they're flat colors, they're not really metallic or shiny, so it's going to look better for me to paint them. These might be the eyes, the pink circles here, so depending upon whether that's the case or not, I might wind up using those because those tend to be deep in the face and they don't show as the edges and such. So for this model kit, I did go ahead and buy a third-party water slide stickers. These ones are done by Rework, which do a really, really good job. Now, this being a HG kit, the manual's doesn't assume stickers or decals being done anywhere. I'm sorry, these are water slide decals, not stickers. So the manual doesn't show where they should be applied. However, the manufacturer will either provide a guide on where to place them, or at the very least, what they'll do is they would have applied these decals to a finished model, and they will provide photos of where the decals were applied to it. So it'll have a front view, a back view, and the side views, and the weapons and shield and all that. So I've already downloaded those, so I'll be using those to determine where all these should be put. So that's one of the downfalls of, it's going to look much nicer with the water slide stick decals on the model, but because of the fact that HGs are not designed to have either decals or stickers on them more times than not, other than the color correcting ones, you have to go do a little bit more research and searching the internet for actual pictures or guides that people have put together in order to allow you to know where these should go. But I do believe it'll be well worth it. I haven't done it. This will be one of the first times I do it this way, because the other mobile suits that I put together, the other model kits, didn't have water slide decals available. So I do believe it's going to be well worth the effort once it's done, because this is a pretty detailed mobile suit, and it'll look really nice with the water slides on there to kind of highlight areas and stuff like that. So, well, that's it with the unboxing. We have here the Messer Type-F01. This is from Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway. This is not quite out of the box. What I did do is I did panel lining. I did places where some of the color correcting stickers were done. Instead of using that, I did painting instead. And as you can see, I did put on some water slide decals. These water slide decals were done by a third-party water slide decal provider called Rework. There's a lot of them. Rework tends to do a lot of detail stuff. Unfortunately, with their water slide decals, they don't always provide marking diagrams, but they do provide multiple photos with all the angles and close-ups where needed and stuff like that. So that's what I use to determine where all these should go. So I think it looks really, really nice with the decals. I do realize that I probably should have taken some shots before putting the decals on, but I didn't think about that until I started doing the decals, because this was only the second model I've ever done the decals on. So next time I will be much better and get some shots of it pretty much out of the box with just the panel lining and color correcting painting on it and not the decals, and then I could go to the decals. So this here, the accessories are pretty standard. What we've got is we've got a beam rifle, we've got a beam sword. It actually comes with two beam swords because the right hand has both a trigger finger, which is what it is right now. Now it's not one that actually wraps around the trigger. It just looks like it does. It's just the way the hand is molded, but it also has a typical grasping hand as well. And the nice thing about these is you don't have to take the back off to put these on. They just slide right in, and then when you think you've slid them in long enough, just do a little bit more, and you'll hear a little click, and it's in there. It's not going to come out. So you could do dual-handed beam swords as well. Now it's almost just as easy to take them out. You just kind of push from the bottom. You can take these out. So I'm going to take this out because it also comes with a nice shield. This here is the shield. I mean, it doesn't have any moving parts on it. Then one nice thing though is that if you're not using the beam rifles, I'm sorry, the beam swords, you can store the handles right here in the shield. You just kind of pop them in. Now, one thing to note, reason why I decided to show this first without the shield, is once you've got them in there, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get them out. Well, that's not so bad. I guess maybe it was things were tight the first time. I had trouble getting them out the first time I tried to get them out. So, but maybe things loosened up now because it's not, there it is. It's a little bit tight. So what I used was a very, very carefully used either a pair of tweezers to get under there or like a very small flathead screwdriver and just very carefully pried them out. But they get stored right back there. This here is what attaches the shield to the arm. If you look underneath the arm, on the elbow here, there is this little slot that this fits into. So you just push that in there. Then you can put the shield, get that out of the way. Then you can put the shield right on here. And it's essentially just a part of the arm now. And, you know, there's not a whole lot of movement. You can, no, actually you can't do that. The only thing that moves is here. It looks like you could probably use this peg here. If you didn't have the backpack, you could put it on the back, stuff like that. But anyway, that's where the shield would go, and you've got this right here. This is definitely a bulky suit, as you can tell. If we compare it to the Granddaddy Gundam in the same HG scale, these are both out of the Universal Century line, so they're pretty much, you know, suits from the same timeline, so they're progressive. So here's your first essential mobile suit. I think actually the gun cannon was the first one, but here's an early mobile suit, and as of Hathaway, this would be one of the more recent ones, and this is much, much bigger. Now this has the mono eye in it, so this I haven't seen Hathaway, but I've got to assume that this is the equivalent of a Zaku in Hathaway, because normally it's the Zaku that has, you know, the piping and the mono eye and stuff like that. So that's just a comparison so you can see the size. This is, as you can probably guess, let me just take the shield off so we can see other things. This is quite the hefty kit. It's bulky. Everything is big on it. The legs, the arms, the shoulders. This kind of can move out of the way slightly to give you a little bit more, almost a full 90-degree angle. Actually, I guess that one can do full 90-degree angle. This one can't quite do a full 90-degree. So things are very, very big. You know, you have your typical movement, but because things are so big and the armor is just so massive, the articulation gets blocked most times by the armor around it, especially in the legs. The front skirts move slightly up. Now there is kind of a ball joint type of thing in here, so unfortunately this is the one area where these two pieces tend to pop off if you go too far with the leg. With the back, you can pretty much, it's got like a multi-joint. You look here, it's got like a multi-articulated connector for the back skirt for each half. So you can, whoop, there goes the front one. So you can kind of get the back skirts out of the way somewhat. Yeah, I'll just keep that off for right now. So you can, with being able to get the back skirts out of the way, you can kick back fairly well. Let's do this one since the skirt's still on there. So it can kick back pretty well. The knee has the 180 joint, the double joint. It can go out to the side just a little bit, not a whole lot. Splits aren't what this is designed to do. It can come forward. If we look at this one, it can only come forward a little bit. So enough to kind of give a walking motion, but not much more than that. The foot and ankle kind of move a little bit, but that's still limited as far as, tilt backwards and forwards. This can go out of the way, but you still can't go up too high. So this is normally going to stay down. You can twist to some extent, but not all the way around with the ankle. On the back here, we've got the backpack, and this has some nice movement where both the bottom and the top you can move, together. And this moves back up and down for thrusting and stuff like that. There are some, the head is very bulky, as you can see, so it does not move a whole lot. Now, one thing that's really kind of neat is you can see it. Let's see here. You can see it right there. In order to give the head just a little bit more movement, the entire upper torso will lean forward and go back. Otherwise, there would not be much head movement. There wouldn't be any head movement, really. And you really can't turn the head too much. Because, once again, you've just got all these bulky armors all over the place. Now, I do, even though it can't move that much, I do really like the way this piece looks. I mean, this was, even though this was big, this was a breeze to put together. There aren't any more pieces really, except for some detail pieces, but there aren't really that many more pieces for this being so big. It's just all the pieces are big. It's almost like, you've got, master grade, 1/100th scale pieces putting together a 1 by 1/44 scale piece instead, because everything's just so much bigger. So there's a little bit of back and forth in the hips and the waist, but not a whole lot. You can kind of, once again, there's just a joint that lifts the entire waist here. And as you can see, the skirts have popped off, so I've just let them stay off. This is definitely not something that you're going to be posing a lot. But then again, I can't imagine this in the anime or the manga doing a whole lot of posing either. Now, the one really nice thing about this, in this entire kit, there's not one single polycap. Every joint is plastic on plastic. So it is rock solid. It's unfortunate you can't do the articulation more, because such a rock solid joint system would be great on a kit that you could manipulate a lot, because you would basically put things where you wanted them and they would stay. But yeah, so and there's definitely some very interesting ways that all the pieces went together, because once again, you don't have the polycap, so they had to come up with some pretty interesting ways of doing the movement and stuff like that, which when putting it together, it's like, wow, that's pretty darn cool. So overall, what I would do is I would give this a B. The reason for a B is that although I really do like the suit, the mobile suit, I think it looks great. I think it is just a great example of what can be done with a mobile suit at this scale and the HG grade. The fact that there's almost no movement that you can really do, except for in the arms and mostly in the elbow and the knees. Instead of being able to give it an A, I'm going to have to give it a B, just because of that reason. So. Oh, and this here comes with its own stand adapter. So I'm using just the standard Type 5 stand for this. I don't want to use one of the smaller ones because this is just too darn bulky, so I'm using this one instead. So what you do is you take the typical, your typical, let me move this out of the way so it's not focusing on that. So you take your typical peg, it fits right into here, and just like with the beam sabers, the beam swords going into the hands, you push it as far as it'll go, and then you give it a little bit more, and you get a little snap, and that's in place. That's not going anywhere. And then right here in the back, and you don't have to do all this movement, I want you to be able to see there's these two little slots on each side, and this slides right in there. And then once that's in place, then you just put it on the stand, and it's, whoop, I have it, I didn't have it where it needed to be. I had it too far over. This should be in the middle, because it is a very bulky suit. And then there we go. We've got it there. And, I forgot to mention, some of the details are great. Like in the back here, we've got these thrusters. In the backpack, there's little thrusters down here and little thrusters here at the top. So the detail is amazing. I just wish it could move better, but considering the bulk, I can understand why it can't. So, but thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up. That really does help out the channel. And if you would like to see more like this, please go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell. If you do have some time, I would really appreciate it if you could watch one of the videos that are popping up around my head.